Yeah.
All right. Our next movie is Lizzie.
Lizzie. Yes, this was
Um,
a 2018 movie, I
yeah,
believe.
just fairly new, and
Yeah. It is
star
starring Kristen Stewart and
Chloe Sevigny. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I've been a fan of hers since Trees Lounge, and she was also in David Fincher's Zodiac.
yep.
This is the
I've
first.
always liked her as an actor as well.
Yeah. This is the first I'm aware that she produced something. She actually produced this movie. I actually I know about as much about Lizzie Borden as someone who read or heard the little poem would know.
Oh, okay. See, I've seen several movies about the Borden murders. Um, no one really knows what happened. So a lot of the movies that are written are fictional retellings of what a person believes could have actually happened at that time.
Mhm.
And this one, I don't know if it's necessarily a feminist viewpoint. I think it's just that it's a new take on what could have led her to commit the crime, and how she got away with it as well. And I thought that was pretty brilliant in the movie. But let's start off by saying that. Or I want to start off by saying that the father is played by so the father was played by Jamie Sheridan, who fans might remember from Stephen King's The Stand as the Dark Man, the Walking Dude. Anyway,
Oh, you mean the Bon Jovi bad guy?
the Bon Jovi bad guy, and he was a not a very likable character, but I think the roles he plays are very good, and
He did a great job.
I think he played Lizzie's father very well.
One of the things about this movie that was interesting is that it showed the environment that these women had to deal with uh, going into what happened. So,
Right.
it doesn't really excuse what the movie says they did, but it certainly gives motive, and you can certainly understand where they're coming from to some extent.
So Lizzie has some kind of like epilepsy or something like that. I don't know the exact affliction that she has, but she has some kind of spells throughout the movie. And so we see kind of this thing, and at the beginning we notice that the father is becoming more and more protective of her. Her mother had already died. The father remarried somebody who she didn't like, and her sister still lives with them as well. They have a maid or a house girl, and her name is Maggie, and
they call her Maggie. Her name is Bridget.
Okay, and she is played by Kristen Stewart.
Mhm.
Anyway, so that out of the way, we see her father start to become more and more protective of her. Doesn't want her to go to the opera, the theater, and we see Lizzie starting to
also kind of. I don't know if he's becoming more protective there, or if that's a reflection of the way society behaved at that point, where a woman was not allowed to be seen out in public by herself.
Well, it could be that, but the thing is that she makes a statement saying, I've been out every day this week, and why are you suddenly saying that?
Okay, I didn't catch that, but okay.
The theater is my only respite from this life,
Mm-hmm.
and so obviously she goes to the theater plenty, but now suddenly he's like, you won't leave this house by yourself. So I think he's worried that she'll go out and have a spell, and which she does. She goes to the theater and then has a spell.
Mm.
But we also see a Lizzie Borden that is kind of starting to disrespect her father. For that era, that kind of thing was completely unacceptable for a daughter, but not only a daughter, but a woman to disrespect a man. But the daughter
standing up for herself, and she's getting to the point where she's not going to put up with any more crap. I think he's a smothering person, and she's trying to stake a little bit of ground.
Yeah, and that's kind of a groundbreaking thing for a woman back then, because that just isn't how things were done or accepted. So,
Not
she
accepted.
was.
I've probably done a lot more than.
Yeah, it was probably done a lot more behind closed curtains, than what we know. But anyway, so Kristen Stewart's character Maggie gets hired on as her um, her
Maid.
maid in waiting or lady in waiting or whatever the hell, chambermaid kind of lady. But she also services the whole house. She washes the windows. I don't see that she prepares food, but she
No, she does eat with them though, doesn't she?
no, no, no,
No.
she doesn't even eat with them.
Oh, okay.
Not that I saw. So she's treated like a servant, so, for sure. Not only like a servant, but also by the father. She is. I think she is definitely sexually assaulted by the father a few times in the movie. They don't show that directly because
It's more than hinted at though. I mean, he does get into bed with her, and she's kind of um pulling away a little bit.
yeah, and yeah. So I mean, she's being assaulted by this guy,
And the wife knows too. You can tell when he gets back into bed that she knows what's up.
But it seems like so Lizzie does not like the stepmother. Definitely, she has a lot to say about her. They it kind of shows, it goes right into the murder. Okay, so it doesn't show the murder at first. It just suddenly is, oh my God, somebody's killed father, go get the police. And then the movie continues.
Which I felt was kind of artificial. Even when it finally happens, it feels kind of artificial.
Oh,
I don't know if it's supposed to or.
Yeah, well, okay, because it's all a ruse. So I like how they presented it. It's like because none of us really know what happened,
right?
Anyway, and they kind of follow that thought pattern, is that we don't really know what happened, and they threw that in our face. It's just suddenly, somebody's killed father, go get the police.
Right.
And then the story unfolds. It goes into the abuse, it goes into the control, it goes into the hatred of the mother, it goes and the love from the sister, who fully supported her. And then it kind of shows what led up to the murder. A big part of it was the fact that that Maggie and Lizzie were starting to have a tryst.
Mm.
And homosexuality at that time was definitely not an acceptable situation. And
they're the only two people in the entire movie that can understand each other.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Actually having a genuine connection with each other, because everybody else in the movie has to play their roles and stay in their lane, kind of.
Right. Exactly.
And here's an opportunity for them to be real with another person.
Right. And I kind of almost like to say that I feel that their characters are, I don't want to put labels, but I had this strong feeling of this pansexuality kind of vibe to it, because I think that they both had probably been part of society, and both probably had dated men and been with men, but they felt such a connection with each other that it didn't matter that they both were women to them, and so that's where I feel that they got this feeling of relationship for each other. Yeah. And so they act on it. The father sees it, and and
then things
really spiral out of control at that point. Obviously, there's a huge feeling of the fact that Lizzie is going to be sent away, either because of her epilepsy or her, or they're going to use her epilepsy or whatever affliction that.
Did they actually say it was epilepsy? Because a lot of times,
no. I mean,
back in the day, they would have thought that was some sort of, I don't know if they would have called that possession or
yeah, exactly.
All kinds of weird stuff. Maybe I'm going back too far. Maybe they already knew by that point.
Well, I mean, they still blamed all kinds of stuff on anything.
Some weirdos still blame that shit today.
Yeah. But I feel like they were going to use her affliction as an excuse to send her away because she was rocking the boat too much, and she couldn't have that. She wanted to be with Maggie, and she finally felt connected to somebody, and they wanted to make a go of it. And so I think that is kind of what tipped her the last straw, basically, that tipped her to committing the murder. And I thought go ahead.
And that's why I was just kind of talking about the what was going on around them. That this is as much a critique of that style of thinking
That
as
society. Yeah,
it's almost it's almost not a horror movie.
Right.
In fact, it's a second movie that's really very almost borderline not a horror movie. It has one scene that's really kind of gruesome. We see a shot of the victim's face, and the killing is very brutal in the way it's shot. It's not actually showing much, but
really well historically represented, though.
Oh yeah, I usually don't like period pieces, but I thought this was good.
Yeah, but I think it was kind of a selfish thing that she involved Maggie in the murder.
I don't know. It's hard to say because the circumstances that everyone else kept them in kind of makes me feel that the outside was very selfish.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that both sides were selfish. I think that the girls were or the women were definitely oppressed and abused, and that they had very little recourse for that at that time, and they decided to take action themselves. However, Lizzie, I think, also was a psychopath, and Maggie was not. I think Maggie was a good girl, and she just got wrapped up in it.
I don't know if Lizzie was a psychopath. I think psychopaths don't care. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not saying she's not crazy. It's pretty messed up what she does, but I don't know if she fits the definition of psychopathy.
Well, the reason I say that is because of the way that she is able to weasel out of it. She never was charged. Well, she was charged. She would never convicted.
This is interesting. This is the second week in a row we have a killer who gets off because she's got a position of wealth or power.
So
what'd you think? You told me the other day you didn't like it very much, but you sound very animated.
Okay, so here's an example of a fairly slow-moving movie that leads to something. It actually has a point. It has a story it's telling, even though it's a fictional retelling of an historical occasion that we all know, except for Dan. And
I know of it. I just don't know all the details. I'm not a true crime bro.
You know your hair? I know of it. Scott Pilgrim. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so
I know the rhyme.
Yeah. So, but what I mean is that people who know about the story know what happened, and know the result, but don't know how it occurred. So I think it was a brilliant retelling, a fictional retelling of the story.
Good speculative fiction.
Huh?
Good speculative fiction.
Yes, very. I thought so. But it was moving slow. It had a pace, and that was a slow pace. The story developed, and you had to be into the idea of it. And for some people, they might turn it off because they think it's moving too slow and it's not getting to the point, or it's too jumpy as far as the timeline. But they did that for effect, I think. They did it so that they show you what you already know about the story, and then they show you what they think happened and how it goes back to ending with the result of the story. So two brilliantly acted characters.
Yeah, Kristen Stewart's always given shit for her acting. I think she's great, and she's great.
Yeah, I mean, what did someone say that she always, she always looked like she was fiending for a cigarette or something like that. I don't know. I think she's
I
beautiful.
like her, and I like her.
I think she's gorgeous. And while I don't like what the series that made her famous, I really like and respect her as an actress.
So press play or eject.
Oh, definitely press play. It's well worth it. Just sit down knowing you're going into a slower moving film about an historical event that you have probably heard about, maybe even seen some movies. There was the Christina Ricci series, the movie, and then the series after that is a really drawn out telling of the story and then what happens afterwards and things. And that was really good. I felt pretty good as well. But I think this is probably my favorite retelling of it, with some beautiful actresses, some very well acted roles.
So
Definitely press play.
Press play for me too. I enjoyed it.
Great.
So next week blew my mind.
Blew my mind. Yeah, this is a story.
I don't know much about it. It's about a girl turning into a mermaid or something.